Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiments off. That way, when an occasion arises, you can choose the card that best fits the recipient and the sentiment that best fits the occasion. To help you with this, I release a free printable kit full of sentiments and a card sketch using sentiments in these 3 key sizes, and we do it twice a month on the first and third Friday. In the month of September, there are 5 free kits available, and this is kit number 4. Let's take a look at the kit. So this is labeled for military and veterans. I had requests to also include first responders, and I think there are sentiments in here that can do that work as well, but it was getting long. So certainly use these in all of the ways. Freedom isn't free. Best day ever. You are strong, brave, loved. Honor and remember, you've been ordered to relax. We're proud of you. You are my favorite soldier. Land of the free because of the brave. So glad you're home. Welcome home. Always remember, never forget. Thank you for making a difference. Congrats on your promotion. Not all heroes wear capes. Thank you for your service. The world is a better place because of you. The sentiments on this first page are a 1 3/4 inch circle, and the printed circle is just a little bit bigger than that. So if you wiggle your punch or your die until you can't see the circle, you'll know that it is centered. On the second page, we have the same sentiments in the same sizes, but without that circle. So you can use a different size circle or a different shape altogether. In our rectangle sentiments, you have tick marks to help you cut them out. And then there are 2 additional sentiments. Congrats on your promotion. We have in 2 fonts now. And with gratitude for your service. Then we have our strip sentiments. There are 4 different fonts. These come in black text on white. They're about a 1/4 inch when you cut them out by lining up those tick marks right on the blade of your trimmer. And then we have our card sketch. If you have ideas for sentiments coming up, I would love to hear about it. We have lots of big things and surprises coming up. The next big one is next Friday, the 27th. I will launch my membership program. I'm so excited about this. There's lots of bonus content you can get through membership, and there will be a free membership option as well. Then buckle up for October. I have at least 5 kits available for you in October as well. I don't know how these things happen. They just do. So be sure to tune in October 1st. I will actually have 2 videos on the 1st for you, both sneak peeking things that are coming up in October. I'm so excited. If you're new here and interested in these free printable kits, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll be notified every time there's a new kit available. All right, let's make some cards. So I am starting out with a panel that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, patterned paper that is 4 by 5 1/4, and then a 2-inch strip of cardstock. It actually takes almost 6 1/2 inches to truly go from corner to corner. So we're gonna cheat a little because I know a lot of us really just keep 6 by 6 patterned paper on hand. We're gonna cut this right behind where that 3-inch circle is going to go. There's a couple of ways to lay down that diagonal stripe. I currently have each corner on the same line on my mat, and I could make sure that that stripe is following that line and that they're lining up exactly. But honestly, the circle fits better if you go a little wonky. So I'll show you what I mean. I am lining up the circle so I have an equal margin on the left and on the bottom, and then I'm making sure the stripe goes through the middle of the circle. And so I am just lining up the first one and using the second larger piece to help make sure that I'm keeping it straight. Then I can rotate the whole thing, and I'm gonna line up those bottom pieces or that bottom stripe pattern with the lines on my grid mat, and I will add the top piece on to line up with the same grid lines. You could eyeball this, but I know that I start to panic when I'm like, oh man, did I put it down right? Is it gonna be straight? I don't know, especially with a striped pattern in the paper. This just felt a little more comfortable for me, but you know, if you can eyeball it, just do that. That's way easier. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and trim off the excess, and then I can start adding pieces to my card. I like to trim that stripe before I add it to the card panel or my card base. I don't like it going all the way across the A2, but depending on sort of the design that you're going for. That could work as well. I'm adding this to a top folding A2 card base, but side folding works just fine for this design as well. We're making cards for service members, military, veterans, police officers, that sort of thing today. This was a much requested kit because I know a lot of you make cards to donate to organizations that ask for pieces like this. So I hope this is helpful for you, but please know you can use this sketch for anything, and I'm excited to try it out in some different ways. I'm really just using one die set today. This is called Badges of Honor. It's from Spellbinders. It's new-ish, and it has some dog tags and then this metal, and then in the second card we're going to use like a police shield. And I just think they're gorgeous. Like, they did a beautiful job designing the dies. I'm making things harder than I need to here. For the ribbon on the metal, I could have just glued that straight onto my card, but I wanted to be able to pick it up and move it around. So I added some paper behind the outline for the ribbon because that's a single die that cuts out those pieces, but you could just glue them straight onto your card and you don't have to do that part, right? Then I'm working with a lot of metallic cardstock today, and this stuff is shiny and slippery. And I tell you what, some days I do great with it, and some days I struggle. I did okay on the first card. I put glue on the back of that star, and then I just left it to let that dry for a little bit before I added it onto the metal, and it worked better because it gives the glue a chance to set up. But when we get to card number 2, I am gonna struggle, so you can just have a good chuckle at me. I'm adding down my 3-inch circle with just some wet glue. I'm really not even adding much dimension on this. I know a lot of organizations, when you're donating, are kind of picky about adding dimension because it can change postage or cause other problems. I am using a stack of layers here. So the gold circle's 2 1/4, the red is 2. So the red one's like our standard circle mat. The blue is 2 1/2 by 1 1/2. It's our standard rectangle mat. And I'm going to stick that right in the middle of our large circle. I actually didn't think I was going to do that on this card. I was going to use the metal and a strip sentiment, but the metal is quite small compared to that 3-inch circle. And so we'll kind of address that issue on the next card so that we can really make a smaller image our focal point, even with this layout. I glued the ribbon onto the top of the metal. There's like a little piece where you could kind of tuck it in slightly to that die cut, but I didn't feel like messing with it, so I just glued it right on top. And I'm putting it in the top left corner. I have the same margin-ish on the left and the top. Then I can work on my sentiment. So these are the rectangle sentiments. You don't need any dies or punches to cut these out. I'm lining up the tick marks and the blade of my trimmer, and I am cutting up from the bottom and stopping before it goes all the way through. I want to keep that header attached, and you'll see when I pull this out, I have flaps. I have tick marks on the side that tell me where to cut, and if I'd cut all the way through, I wouldn't have those anymore. So then I can rotate, and I'm just lining the tick marks up again and sliding the blade of my trimmer through that. These are 2 1/4 by 1 1/4 inches. And this one says, with gratitude for your service, I will add it with some temporary adhesive, and that will finish up card number 1. For card number 2, we're going to change some of the measurements, and I added this under the stretch a sketch. I'm starting with an A2 panel that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm adding it onto a white card base. But then I've shrunk down the pink layer and added a mat, okay? My pink layer is now 3 1/2 by 4 3/4, and the mat is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. I'm using a shimmery white cardstock. I still feel like this reads fairly masculine. It's not sparkly glittery, it's just a touch of some visual texture. And I'm ink blending up from the bottom with my Spellbinders large blending brushes. This is a bold, dark blue ink. And this brush is so soft and fluffy and so big that it's really easy to get a nice soft blend. Also, they're on sale in the Spellbinders warehouse sale. If you're watching this video kind of as it comes out, they're the cheapest I've ever seen them, and they come in a 2-pack. In addition to cutting down our pink layer, I also shrunk down that strip of cardstock. This is 1 1/2 inches. And I'm running it through the Monoline Stars 3D embossing folder. It is geometric, so I'm trying to line it up right on the lines there. And you can see it just creates a little bit of texture to add to our card. I did one off camera that I also sort of ran my gold pigment ink pad over, and it is gorgeous. But I thought it was competing a little too much with some of the other elements of the card. So this is 1.5 by 6 inches, and that fits perfectly across this smaller rectangle. So if you're like, Sarah, I don't really want to have to deal with cutting this strip behind the large circle, don't, right? Just shrink this down. I really like this layout too. And then I'll flip it over and I will trim off the sides. I'm not going to use the 3-inch circle on our card. That wasn't my intention at the beginning. But if you are, it's going to hang off of this rectangle a little bit, or it can. I really like the look of that. But make sure if you're going to do that, that you're lining up your strip so that it looks good behind the circle. I didn't, which is ultimately why I skipped that layer. I'm going to center this on my card base, and I love that nice wide margin we get around the outside. And then I can work on my embellishment or my focal image, right? So we're going to create this police badge, and this is where I'm struggling with the shiny cardstock. So I put glue on the gold badge layer to let it set up. It wasn't enough. Part of it is that it's very thin. I still have a bunch of not awesome gold cardstock, not the treasured cardstock that I've been raving about, and I'm trying to use it up. Well, because it's so thin and it's curling and that glue isn't grabbing, like I spent way too long. Finally, I stuck my tweezers on there and I just walked away. I was so mad at it. So you can use a different glue. Usually if I just give my Barely Art glue some time to set up, it's fine. But Nuvo Deluxe adhesive would have been a better option anyway. For our sentiment, I'm using a strip sentiment, and I will trim this off so that I can see those tick marks right on the edge of both sides. Then I line the tick marks up on the blade of my trimmer, and I get perfectly cut sentiments every time. I've used the inside finger guard to make sure that when I'm trimming off the ends, I get equal margins, and then I'll add that onto a 3/8 inch strip of cardstock. I make sure the margins are the same on the top and bottom and on the left, and then I just start trimming off slivers until the other margin matches. I'm not having to measure and perfectly cut that backer piece. This is going to overlap our emboss panel a little bit, so I'm putting some extra cardstock on the right side, and then I'll just trim that off with my scissors so it's a little bit behind, and it will sit more evenly on my card. I'm adding my removable adhesive only behind the part on the solid black cardstock, not my shimmer cardstock, because sometimes that adhesive will pick up the shimmer, remove it a little bit if I decide to change sentiments, and I don't want to have to deal with it later. These two circles are on the sketch. They're 2¼ and 2 inches, and then I'm just putting my little badge right in the center of that, and I'll glue it straight down onto my card. I really like this up towards the top right. It's a very similar feel to the first sketch or the original sketch, but I've just kind of moved where I'm leaving my sentiment. And that finishes up card number 2. All right, my friends, those are our 2 card projects for today. I would love to know which of these 2 cards is your favorite. If you are interested in the free printable kit, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel and ring that bell so you'll be notified every time there's a new free kit. I release these twice a month on the 1st and 3rd Friday, but this month there were 3 extra kits. This is number 4. Number 5 is exclusive to the Stress-Free Card Maker Summit. I'll leave a link to the free ticket below. If you click more or show more beneath the video, that will unpack the description box for you. And it will have a link to all of the videos that we've talked about, the playlist for the free printable kits, all of the supplies that we've used, and everything else that you need. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.